Made on Zencastr.
Because Zencastr makes every stage of the podcast production and distribution processes so easy. All the details are in the description. Hello and welcome to Fit for My Age, the health and wellbeing podcast from Abeceda. I am Michael Millward, the Managing Director of Abeceda. Today I am learning about balance from Dan Metcalfe, the author of Born Superhuman, Wellness Whispers, the 7 Pillars for Natural Health. Dan moved from professional athlete to dancer to playing lead in Lord Andrew Lloyd Webber's shows around the world, and then hit Hollywood, working on over 100 productions as actor, producer, director, host, and lead creative teams, with Will Ferrell, Robert Duvall, Channing Tatum, and Amanda Bynes as some of the people he has worked alongside. Then Dan forged a business career launching his own products and gyms, becoming a top seller on QVC, and eventually launching the Total Balance System, which has improved the lives of tens of thousands of people around the world. And Dan is based in Los Angeles in California, a city I have visited. If I was to go again, I would make all of my travel arrangements with the Ultimate Travel Club, because as a member of the Ultimate Travel Club, I get to travel at trade prices on flights, hotels, trains, holidays, all sorts of the travel-related purchases. You can as well if you become a member of the Ultimate Travel Club, and to make that easy, I have put a link with a built-in discount in the description. Now that I have paid some bills, it is time to make an episode of Fit for My Age that will be well worth listening to, liking, downloading, and subscribing to, and one that will be well worth telling your friends, family, and work colleagues about as well. Very importantly, on Fit for My Age, we do not tell you what to think, but we do hope to make you think. Hello, Dan.
Hi, Michael. Thanks. It's great to be here on Fit for My Age.
Thank you very much. I'm really looking forward to hearing more about all the various different things that you've done and this balance program that you've created, the Total Balance System. But could we start, please, with you filling in a bit of the gaps? How do you go from being an athlete, dancer, movie star? How did it all come to be? It sounds like you've had someone's been looking after you.
Well, I have to say I've taken the time to look after me, as we all should, because I've gone through some real challenges, everything from actually having an accident on stage during Andrew Lloyd Webber's show in Las Vegas, where I fractured my spine. I was paralyzed and the doctors told me I'd be disabled for life. And one thing that we don't realize enough, because we rely so much on outside sources, is we are incredible. We are born to heal. We're made to heal if we invest in ourselves. So that was one of the challenges that I had, and came back from that, ended up racing the Ironman, opened my own gyms in Los Angeles. And then I was out on a bike ride one day and had a metal pole hit me in the head at 22 miles an hour. I was knocked unconscious, secondary impact. And the result was, after 3 minutes of being unconscious on the ground, part of my brain died. I had to learn to talk again, learn to walk properly, learn how to function. I put on a bunch of weight, and it was such a gift because it made me understand when people are suffering what they really feel and how important quality of life really is.
Yes, I can see what you mean there. And you've certainly built quite a quality life and are helping other people improve their lives as well. But I have to ask, in the list of people that you've worked with in Hollywood is Channing Tatum, who is the driving force behind the Magic Mike films. Is that a franchise that you've been involved in?
Not involved with the franchise, but I have to say Chan is incredible. What a great guy he is. And I'm not saying that because I'm on, being recorded and want to get kudo points. He is, as in real life, as you see in the movies, just a super nice guy. I was able to work with him very closely. And he genuinely is somebody that brings a light and an energy. And I really think that's part of the reason he's been so successful. It's not just that he's a talented actor, but he's just a great person to work with. And for those people that love him, and there's a lot of people out there that love him, he is what you see.
Brilliant. So meaning really is that you can have the skills, the talents, but one of the things that makes you really successful is the emotional intelligence to go with it as well and connect with people.
Certainly to last. I mean, if you want to last in the industry, you can have a short run, but he's proven it again and again and is somebody that people want to work with. Invaluable.
All of the accidents that you had, like the accident on stage and then the accident where you hit with the metal pole, which sounds horrific, that's educated you around balance and recovery as well. How did you go about developing the total balance system?
Yeah, great question, Michael. What happened was because of my brain injury and what the doctors wanted to do was just put me on drugs and say, we're going to numb down the brain so you're not suffering. I went and studied the brain and I had to go for my own existence. And I have a saying that I love, why be a victim when you can be a hero? But the hero has to be for yourself. But along the way, there was a gentleman by the name of Bob Eubanks in America. Everyone will know him from the Newlywed Game. He actually was the producer that brought the Beatles to America for their first concert tours 2 years in California. And he was 79 and falling. And I could see he had lost his energy and excitement for life. And we see this with so many people when they're hit a certain age and they start fearing falling because they've heard the danger, or they've fallen and now they live in fear. So I said to Bob, come to my house. I had a gym, but I said, let's keep this private. And I'm going to do what any great trainer is going to do. I'm going to strengthen your legs, strengthen your hip flexors so that you can lift your feet and not shuffle. I'm strengthening your core and you'll walk better. Brilliant plan. But within 2 minutes, I realized I was 100% wrong. And that was the beginning of the evolution of creating a new balanced system that I've got tens of thousands of people around the world that are using it with unprecedented results, because instead of training the body, I said, let's train the brain. I realized with Bob, his body was actually strong, but he didn't have the confidence to let it go because he was thinking of the fall and not working back to balance recovery. And the simple way to say this is, if gyms were the solution to balance and mobility, we'd be taking children to the gym to help them learn to walk. It's not. It's from the brain and the brain connection to the body, which is our proprioception. It's our motor neurons firing. And just as importantly, is the sensory messaging from what we're doing going back to the brain and saying to the brain, this is what's happening. And it has to happen so fast that the brain corrects the body movement before we're even conscious of it.
That's very interesting, because when you talked about strengthening the hips, the back, and so people could move and wouldn't be shuffling, they'd be making proper steps. I thought, yeah, that's right. That must be right. But then this training of the brain, that makes so much sense to me, because correct me if I'm wrong, check my understanding, is that the fear of falling in an elderly person sort of overwrites what the brain knows. The fear takes control, and that then means that the body responds to that by making these shuffling steps rather than proper steps. And because then that shuffle has resulted in a movement forward, that reinforces the reason for the fear, and the brain is, now we shuffle rather than taking a proper step. But you've got to train the brain to make the proper step and understand how to avoid the fall as a result of making the proper step.
Yeah, it's actually, I can go quite a bit deeper, but I'll keep this short because I'd like people to think about this. Like, when you start investigating your own thought process, it actually opens up new channels of life ahead. There was a study done back in Bristol University in 2009 where they looked at what's happening within the brain, specifically the cerebellum. The cerebellum is the part of the brain at the back. They call it the mini brain, the little brain. And that's really where most of your control of movement comes from. It's right above the spinal cord. And they found or discovered a part, the pyramis within the cerebellum, that has a memory for movement, which would make sense. Now it's connected, and I'm just going to throw this name out here. Don't get worried about it. It's called the periaqueductal gray. This is part of the brain that controls our movement. So, for example, if we're scared or we're walking to the edge of a cliff, even though we know where to stop, we walk so much slower because we know the danger. The brain is identifying danger. Now, the reason that people shuffle isn't because they can't lift their feet. It's because they want to keep both feet on the ground, because the brain is saying, I'm uncomfortable trusting what I've always done my whole life. So what we had to do was go in and say, how can we release the memory of danger in the cerebellum? And that removes the slowness of responding to people that have a fear of falling or have fallen. And that combines with society that sets us up by saying, when you reach a certain age and you start to fall, that's just part of aging. And I had to go in and prove that's not part of aging, because we have millions of people around the world that have never stepped foot in a gym, and yet they have tremendous balance, mobility, movement, and exploring life. And we have others that live in fear and they're unable to get up and move. Most of it is because of the messaging we've been sent to the brain. It's just the way it is. Well, it's not. Aging's never the reason. What we do and how we maintain is the reason.
There are so many thoughts in my head following what you just said there. I'm not quite sure which thought to go with first, but it sounds as if we can, as we age, older people start to feel as if they should expect to fall, so that they then take these actions to help prevent themselves from falling. And that's almost part of the norm, whereas we need to reconnect with our confidence in our ability to move, and to move in that way, because we have what it takes to move safely.
Yes, so much. Again, when I think back to babies learning to walk, their muscles strengthened by standing upright, by moving, by increasing their activity. And then if you want to have more stamina, endurance, or strength, you might add resistance to it. But I look at my mother, who's, in her 80s and still working and out walking. When she walks, she gets stronger. When she gets out and has fun or goes dancing, her body's reacting no different than a baby. But one of the things that really gets to me is when someone is a full risk, they send people into the home to remove the rugs, put handles on the walls or by the toilet. They, remove toys out the way, they open it up. We're not addressing the problem. What we're doing is we're going to remove the risk of you tripping and falling. Well, instead of cleaning the house up that you've always walked around, why don't we retrain your body by connecting the brain to body and then doing exercises that naturally strengthen you to replicate everyday movements and activities? Because the beautiful thing, Michael, is when you've done it before, you know what to do. The brain doesn't lose the memory, it loses the confidence. And then we're told, do less, sit down more, don't do that, it's too dangerous. And so we become our own problem. But if you're willing to take the actions to actually get up and improve safely is everything. As I said before with the periaqueductal gray, if the brain fears danger, it will slow down and not allow the speed of neurological messaging throughout the body. But if we're safe and willing to do the work, it's incredible what we can do. We're all born superhuman. We're all miracles. We've just got to unleash the miracle within.
It sounds as if we are all capable of doing these things, but somehow or another we convince ourselves, as a result of influences, expectations, negative beliefs, that we're not. And I guess, it's clicked. Train the brain to do the physical things that we think we're not capable of doing, but the brain is capable of allowing us to do it, as long as we reinforce that positive message.
Absolutely. It's like people listening to this podcast on the way to work, by the time they're driving home, they're tired.
Mm-hmm.
And aging is the excessive pursuit of sedentary comfort. So what happens when we come back? We don't want to do something. We've been tired. Look, people have worked hard their whole life. And the last thing they want to come, back home to do is to have to work out or go to the gym. They've got responsibilities, families, work projects. They don't have much sleep before they start tomorrow. And I'll put it exactly this way. Most people spend 70% of their life working to earn money at the expense of their health. And the last 30% of their life is spending all the money they had trying to regain their health. And as little as 10 minutes a day of balance movement strengthening will make a huge difference to allow you to do the things either when you retire that you wanted to do or on the weekends as we begin to age and we just want to rest. No, you'll have the energy and the power to get out and actually live life. And we should be living life.
Yes, very much so. Very much so. However, we've talked there about people who are having problems with balance because of their age. There are also people who have problems with balance because of having had an injury or of developing some sort of health condition. And I suspect that the situation is different for those people than it is for people who are just getting older.
Yeah, I mean, there's numerous reasons for balance loss. We've got neurological issues like Parkinson's, MS. I train currently over 1,000 Parkinson's patients, MS, stroke survivors. We've got, like you said, injuries. We've got vestibular issues. We begin to lose our vision, and that can affect with spatial acuity of what we're looking at. And then you've got medications as well. And when you start adding all these different things together, the body is changing at a neurological or physiological direction. The beauty of the brain is that it adapts to where we're at. So even if you are going through different issues, but the balance loss is the result, or mobility loss is the result, we can still train the brain to fit where we're at to increase the strength within the body to brain messaging and brain to body saying, if I know I want to do it, I can do it.
If I know I want to do it, I can do it.
And that's what it comes down to.
The devil inside me sort of says, that sounds like trainer speak. It's very easy to say, if you know you want to do it, you can do it. No such word as can't and all that sort of stuff. But that still means that for people who've developed some type of health condition, had an injury, here I am talking like this to someone who has had an injury, those brain injuries. You make it sound very simple. What are the sorts of steps that someone would need to go through to achieve the sorts of success that you're saying are possible?
Well, the first thing that we have to do is decide, what do you actually want? Because if you don't know what you want, you don't know where to go, and you're certainly not willing to put in the work. But if I ask you a question, Michael, that I ask a lot of people I work with, what's the most valuable thing you have in life?
Oh, my health.
And most people will say health, family. Some people in Los Angeles will say my shoes or my bags. It's, we are.
There are those people all over the world. It's not just in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
Let's be nice. Right?
But what I tend to correct people with is the most valuable thing we have in life is time.
Oh, true.
Because when time is gone, everything's gone. But, and this is where I start the training, what we do with our time shows what's most important to us. So if you sit on the sofa, drinking a soda and having cake and watching TV, and you're investing your time into that, even though you'll say, well, it's not most important to me, it is, because that's what you're investing time into. So what sounds like the trainer speech, and I love that term, is really, what do you want? Because you will invest your time into what's most important. So if it's not important to be healthy, if it's not important to be mobile and be able to live and go on holiday and when you go on holiday, go out on excursions or go swimming or running or whatever you like to do, then don't expect to get the results. And your life, we know what's going to happen. It will decline. So once we know what we want, then I say, then what are you willing to do? Are you willing to do 10 minutes a day of brain to body balance training exercises that you can do while you're watching TV? And if they say, no, I'm not willing to do it, then I'm saying, then don't expect a different result. What's the saying? The definition of idiocy is doing the same thing again and again, expecting a different result.
That's true.
So what I have to do is turn around and say, what would you love to do again? Because until we envision it, we're not going to do it. But once we envision it, and we sometimes have to go back to what we used to do, because those neurons of remembering it. If I said, remember something you did as a kid that you loved? I love going dancing to Human League or whichever it was, and then you put the music on, you tend to wake up a little bit. So we want to stimulate the neurons to get excited and then be willing to do the work.
How many people just drift through life without actually working out what it is that they want from life? And if you can't work out what it is you want from life, you can't identify what you need to put into life, because there is no point in doing anything because you don't know what you want at the end of it.
Yeah, I mean, there's an incredible study that was done by Dr. George Land back in 1968. And I won't go into the study here, but what he discovered was 4 and 5-year-olds had the same creative genius level as the top 2% of scientists at NASA.
Mm-hmm.
And it was fascinating because we weren't limited as 4 and 5-year-olds how to think. We would be creative. And over time, we're numbed down to stop being creative and fit into the system. And what I love is waking people up to the brilliance that's still inside them and then giving them the tools to be able to go to work, specifically in this conversation with balance and mobility, because you keep your independence. You get to go out and do the things. We've all seen someone that's lost their balance, their mobility, sitting in a chair, smiling, but they've lost that spark in their eye. And we know it's only a downward trajectory to the grave. And as much as that sounds horrible, it's reality, it's truth. We know that, what's crazy is I did a bunch of studying in America. There's a roughly 70 million people in America that are suffering right now from balance loss.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when you look at that and put that into England, it's around 35% of people. The percentage in England is between 15 and 20 million people. We're close to 30, 35%. It seems to be a worldwide issue of aging. And it's because I think in Western society especially, we're tired. We've worked so hard and felt the need to have to earn and provide. Absolutely, and we should, but not at the expense of our health when we have the ability to have both.
That is true. And I'm thinking that, it's the actual concept of retirement as time when you are not working, not been around for that long. And the way in which Western economies are going at the moment, our ability to take that same sort of retirement that our grandparents or great-grandparents took, where it's holidays and allotments and days out, all those sorts of things, is going to become much more difficult because pensions will not be what they used to be. And so we have to stay active longer in order to make sure that we have enough money to do the things that we really want to do. If you lose your balance, if you lose all that ability to be mobile, to be flexible, that becomes increasingly difficult as well. So it's not just a movement, an activity-based thing that we're talking about. It's actually the ability to earn a living for longer as well.
It's life. At the end of the day, do we want quality of life or existence of life? And the number one cause leading to
Yes.
death in seniors is falls. Think about that. The number one cause. We spend a lot of money, rightly so, looking for cancer cures and looking for Alzheimer's and Parkinson's and all these different things. But the number one cause leading to death is balance. And when I came out with this program, I got a lot of resistance. I got things written about my programs in the press. Dan Metcalfe, what an idiot. How can he really talk about this? Training the brain, and it should be the body. We've got to strengthen the body. The body's the problem. And I just kept my head down. We're scientifically backed. The proof, though, that's huge for me is whatever happens in the clinics or in the science labs. At the end of the day, what counts is what happens in real life. So we have the scientific data, but what really inspires me is it's not the data of what happens there in the testing. It's the thousands upon thousands of people that have got their life back. That's the ultimate test of results, because the rest is just writings. Just because it says it works doesn't mean to say it's going to. It's what we actually attain.
Yes. Why do you think falls in older people is such a catalyst for death?
Well, the first thing that happens, and it happens to anybody, even a child, when we fall and get injured, we lose our independence. People have to help us until we heal. But when they fall as a senior, we're not healing as quickly because we haven't got that same energy within our cells that we used to have. And we sit down more, we move less. Now, there's also, we know hip injuries, hip fractures, wrist and spinal head traumas are critical elements of decline. Hip fractures 95% of hip fractures happen because of a fall. And yet 10% of people over 65 that fall, 10% won't last that year. There's the downward spiral because of the loss of confidence. We're moving slower. You then end up with muscle loss, the atrophy that happens that we know muscle by not moving has a direct impact on our ability to live longer, slower reactions. And what people don't know is 50% chance of falling again within 2 weeks of a fall. But 1 in 3 people will fall over the age of 65 every year. And then what happens? The fear wins because now you're so scared you want to sit down. And then we have cognitive loss, we have neurological decline, and the chance of recovery, because not everybody's able to get the help they need to recover, ends up being a very fast downward spiral. And I'm not talking this. We've all seen it. We've all experienced it. And,
Yes.
It's very, very sad, but a little effort goes a long way.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. You've opened my eyes, Dan, to all sorts of different issues, and the simple, straightforward things that we can do in order to help our older relatives to, I suppose, in simple terms, rebuild the confidence that enables them to move in a more positive way, strengthen their bodies and their minds so they have the confidence to do that, and that will help prevent the falls, improve their balance, prevent falls, and if they do fall, enable them to recover in a more positive way. It is such an interesting subject, and I'm very grateful for your time. Thank you very much for helping me make such an interesting episode of Fit for My Age.
Yeah, thank you. I'll leave this question. What do you want to be in 10 years' time? Where do you want to be in 20 years' time? What you invest now in movement will pay off when others that didn't invest end up. So decide what you want and put a little time into your commitment investment for the future. We put money in the bank to let it grow with interest. Put money in your health, put effort in your health, and you will be able to, again, live much longer, better.
Yeah, which is the whole ethos of Fit for My Age. I am Michael Millward, the Managing Director of Abeceda, and in this episode of Fit for My Age, I have been having a conversation with Dan Metcalfe, the author of Born Superhuman and the creator of the Total Balance System. You can find out more about both of us by using the links in the description. At Fit for My Age, our aim is proactive, positive aging. Knowing the risks early is an important part of maintaining good health. That is why we recommend the health assessments available from York Test, especially their annual health test. Performed annually by an experienced phlebotomist who will complete a full blood draw at your home or workplace, the annual health test provides an assessment of 39 different health markers, including cholesterol levels, vitamin levels, organ functions, and the risk of chronic conditions like diabetes. After hospital standard tests are carried out in a UKAS accredited and CQC compliant laboratory, you will be able to access your easy to understand results and guidance to help you make effective lifestyle changes anytime via your secure personal wellness hub account. There is a link and, as you would expect, a discount code in the description. I am sure you will have enjoyed listening to this episode of Fit for My Age as much as Dan and I have enjoyed making it. Please give it a like and download it so you can listen anytime, anywhere. To make sure you don't miss out on future episodes, please subscribe. Remember, the aim of all the podcasts produced by Abeceda is not to tell you what to think, but we do hope to have made you think. Until the next episode of Fit for My Age, thank you for listening and goodbye.